I just went live, bro. Oh man, that was a snafu. All right, guys, I'm gonna get this thing started. Hold on a second. Ahoy, crypto pirates! Welcome once again to your Discourse Syndicates chatting with the captain. I am the captain, your captain, RG3. Tonight we have a special guest, somebody from within the community. I love it when we have guests from within the community that are actually doing things out there that make sense, that help the ecosystem, that aren't trying to line their own pockets, They're actually doing things. Now, should they be compensated? Of course, they should be compensated to at least pay for the work that they've done. I mean, come on, guys. This is still capitalism here, right? We're not trying to make people do stuff for free. That's the one thing I've never understood about you Hexicans, is that when somebody tries to do something, you guys jump all over their shit about making money off of it. However, first one to come out with a shit coin that has anything to do with the community, airdrop, freaking you name it, sacrifice, you guys run to that shit like a fat kid on a cupcake. Every single time you guys are running to it. And you wonder why Richard is freaking unfollowing some of you dumbasses. Because you guys got to understand that he's trying to protect everybody around here from all of these stupid ass money wasting, either scams or failures. I'm not going to necessarily call everything that has came out on, what came out within the ecosystem of Hex a scam, but a lot of them are time wasters, money wasters, liquidity wasters, useless, meaningless tokens that people have tried to capitalize on. So just think about that when you're getting banned by Richard or you're getting unfollowed by Richard. Don't get butthurt if you're out there promoting other shit. There's a way to do it. There's a way to talk about these things. And that is making sure that you're not promoting them. It's okay to talk about these things that are coming out. It's okay to be inquisitive about them, make questions about them. But as soon as you start shilling and start teaching Hexicans how to go and spend their hard-earned money or trade in their hex for something else, you done fucked up. And that's why Richard unfollows you guys. And that's why he still follows me, because I've talked about all these things, but I've done it in a way to where I'm not hurting anybody with it. We're asking questions. We're looking at things. And all of it's suspect. All of it's suspect. Right now, the only cryptocurrency that I can actually fully get 100% behind and endorse is Richard Hart's Hex token. Period. End of story. That's the only thing that I can actually say is true DeFi that makes sense, that is the cryptocurrency that I want to hold. Now, whether or not it means anything to my bank account or not, that's to be said. But my favorite crypto, the only crypto that I stand behind, the only crypto that I think is worth a shit is Hex. Period. And I'll take that to the bank every day, all day long with any of these other fools out there. Any of them. All you crypto experts. Eric Wall, all you guys, come bring it. We all know that Hex is the best cryptocurrency to date out there. It has wrecked everything in its wake. Anyway, with that said, the reason I'm talking about this right now is because the gentleman that I'm going to bring up, man, his book is really written well. I got the digital copy of it and started to go over and read his book. And there was, three blank pages. So for like 4 or 5 days, I thought I didn't have the copy, but then I scrolled a little further and saw there it was. And I got to start reading, but we're going to get into this. This is going to be a cool conversation, but let me say hello to everybody real quick. Thanks for coming in, everybody. BC in the Matrix, you were first, man. Frank, welcome, Frank. Crypto King, and thanks for loving the stream. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. The producer is here. Yeah. Got a copy of Mark's book to Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore's got it now. Let's see if we can get Mark on the Jimmy Dore show. That's what we need. Dorsey, ahoy to you, Dorsey. Yes. T-Bird, welcome. There he is, Dorsey. All these peeps are butthurt because RH unfollowed them. Has me in stitches. Exactly. Me too. He said it time and time again. He has said it to all of you. If you're going to promote other shit that isn't my shit, I'm going to unfollow you. Why? Because I don't want you bleeding off into the people that I'm trying to protect. We're all trying to protect. So I'm about to start doing the same thing. I'm going to clean house because I don't want to be affiliated with any of it either. It's one thing to be investigated by the SEC and have people, looking up underneath your skirt and all that stuff. It's another thing to actually be out there and exposing people to stuff that could possibly be getting them wrecked, or at least wasting their money, wasting their time, wasting the ecosystem's freaking resources. So it's not good, guys. It's not good. Richard is right. Richard, when it comes to cryptocurrency, there is no better teacher. There is no better mentor. Richard Hart knows his stuff when it comes to, arguably, he's the number one guy in crypto when it comes to solid advice, solid understanding of the ecosystem as a whole, its history, where it's going. Richard's a really smart guy when it comes to cryptocurrencies. And that's why when I speak, and I speak into the lives of Hexicans, it has Richard's stamp of approval on it. All right. Who else in here? DB Cooper, Crypto Compassion. Welcome. Blair SM, Nas Hex, Tin Top. What's up with you? Sandy Beach, my lady. Welcome. Haven't forgotten. Holidays over tomorrow. Into the shop. Scott Cutting. Hey, what's up? Let's see. The Hexasians. Yeah, we miss them too, guys. And thank you for your lovely compliment last Friday. It meant a lot to me. Oh, you're welcome. And who else do we have? Sandip. Hey, what's happened? Any updates on the SEC? Not really any updates. It's really kind of like slowed down and come to kind of a grinding halt on all of that. Elliot, welcome. Bright Light Crypto. What's up with you? Blue Collar Grunt. Ooh, I like that. Blue Collar Grunt. Insidious Tomaz, Word, and Alien Hexican. All right, everybody. I'm going to get started here because we have a guest waiting, and I don't want to keep them waiting any longer. All right, everybody. Without any more explanation, this is our Hexican buddy and author of it is called Crypto. Come on. I had the name right here. The First Crypto Revolution. Oh, love that. The revolution will not be televised, but it will be streamed. And it's going to be coming to us today from Mr. Mark Wild. What's happening, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, Captain. Thank you very much for having me. All good. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Shoot, we haven't seen, we met in London, right?
I think the last time was briefly in Vegas.
You were in Vegas. That's right.
Yeah, that was just like a 3-4 minutes somewhere by the pool in a hotel. Right? And before that was London, right? Yeah. So that's actually, I think that actually online is the first time we can have more time to chat, right? Because it's like you are a very popular person, right? So it's hard to get a hold of you for more than 5 minutes in public, right?
No, man, I just love talking to everybody. So it's like, before I know it, we're walking around and everybody's just chatting, and man, a lot of fun with the Hexicans. But completely different climates that we were in. The first time we were in London, it was freezing ass cold. And when we were in Vegas, it was like melt your face warm, right?
Correct.
I like melt your face warm better than the freezing ass cold. Although London was fun. I like London, don't get me wrong. But something about being in Vegas in the sunshine at the pool was a much better situation.
Definitely. For that reason, I'm in Asia right now. I'm in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, and that's my base. So it's hot all year round, right? So
is that where
climate-wise we have the same preferences?
Is that where you've set down roots? Is that where you're going to be living out there?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was out there a couple years back. A friend of mine launched a cryptocurrency and a mining operation. He lived off of Koh Samui there, right there off of the island.
Yeah, it's a nice place as well. Yeah.
Oh, really nice place. Yeah, really nice place up there. But I spent some time running around there twice. I was in Thailand when I was in the Marine Corps for little R&R, and then back again out there with my buddy's crypto launch, which didn't go over well, but we all know how most of these cryptos go, right? Which Brings us to your book, man. I really like the comprehensive look at not only just crypto. You take it all the way back to money and what is money and how has money come to. I'll let you explain it a little bit.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Basically the book starts with defining what money is and a brief history of it. And I thought it's important because I think majority of us or majority of people never actually ask themselves that question, right? We all use money in different forms, be it bank transfers, cash payments, credit cards, doesn't really matter. But how many people how many of your friends or your family, if you just ask them directly over, New Year's Eve dinner, what is money, right? And they will struggle to answer in a comprehensive way, other than just talking about what I just mentioned, the fiat money, the paper notes, the credit cards, right? So I thought it's important to take the first look, just explain where it all came from and how did we associate value with money, starting from barter exchanges, ending on credit cards. That's what this chapter is about. Then the second chapter is also a brief history, but this time I'm going to the banking system, right? So I give a brief overview, how an institution of a bank was invented, where it came from, how it evolved over years, all over until the beginning of the 21st century. And this is the introduction I thought is necessary to jump into crypto, right? Because I'm ending that chapter with a brief mention of the economical crisis of 2007, 2008, and then obviously historically or date-wise, Bitcoin is 2009, 2010, right? So that kind of makes sense chronologically for me to end there and move on to crypto in the next chapter. And then yet again, I'm starting from the beginning, right? So it's a brief history.
Before we get into crypto, I want to interrupt you for a second. So you were intrigued by finance at an early age, right? I mean, you were writing at a very young age, right?
I started to write when I was 16, 17, but that was nothing financial back then, of course.
No.
Right? So I think that was actually video games reviews, right? I mean, when you're 16, 17, unless you are a genius, that's not finance or politics, you can actually talk a lot about, right? And in any comprehensive manner, I'd say, right? So I started from very basic stuff.
Yeah. So 16-year-olds motivated enough to actually start writing. What got you into finance? What made you start writing on this subject?
Crypto and hacks, I would say, right? I was in crypto in general. Yeah. I was involved. Let's call it like this. I was involved in the cryptocurrency market since 2017, early 2017. Then I discovered hacks in early 2020, thanks to a good friend of mine who actually, steered my attention towards Richard Hart and hacks. I dived into it in the beginning, probably like almost everyone else, not really understanding much or thinking I'm understanding, but then, discovering, layer upon a layer.
When was that again?
Early 2020. So
so early 20.
March,
so right after
I'd say
March.
early March. Yeah. So that's that kind of get me going and getting involved slowly into hacks, then hacks community in a way. Mostly watching for a long time. I mean, in terms of community involvement, I was mostly watching. I was on the sidelines. I followed a lot of people. I tried to learn as much as possible. And then we all know how hacks did, right, since the beginning until now, or until 2021, when we were in a big bull market. It all worked out very well for me, for my friends, for my family, for everyone I'm some ways involved with. Hacks, pretty much my early investment in the hacks allowed me to retire from my full-time job as early as 2020, actually. So basically, when it started to grow very fast, I still have a staking ladder all the way from 100 to 100,000 Bitcoin. So basically, when it started to grow very fast, I had I still have a staking ladder all the way from 100 to 100,000 Bitcoin. So basically, when it started to grow very fast, I had I still have a staking ladder all the way from 100 to 100,000 Bitcoin. So basically, when it started to grow very fast, I had Well, I started with like monthly stakes all the way to annual, all the way to 15 years old, 15 years, 5 stakes. And then, with the price progression, price appreciation of Hex, I just started to use some of it as a passive income, especially the monthly ones, right? And it was only, I think, it was roughly 6 months after I got into Hex, so around big payday, I think 2020, when I kind of realized, well, I don't have to look for a job anymore. I could support myself from my monthly stakes, and then figure out other ways of perhaps making money if needed, but I don't really have to come back to a full-time job. So let's call it that I was retired for a few months, and then I realized it's kind of boring as well. I found like I'm too active. I've been working all my life. I've been doing things, working on various projects, profit and non-profits. Didn't really matter as long as I had my heads busy all the time. And after a year, maybe maximum a year of a little bit of traveling, a little bit of just sitting, doing nothing, resting, I was like, no, okay, I just have to do something because I'll go crazy. It's way too early to just spend another, 20, 30, 40 years of my life doing nothing and just enjoying, because enjoying can get boring too, right? So that was one motivation. And then the second motivation was that I just wanted to give back something to the community. I wanted to do something which would make sense, which would help some people, either who are already in the community or who are considering investments in our ecosystem, or just people in crypto in general who maybe they did it wrong until now, and they lost a lot of money in all of the things I'm not going to name, but we are all well aware of. And also people who maybe are not in crypto anymore, not yet, right? And they try to figure a way in, and that's not so easy. For us, a lot of these things are just like automatic. Set up in your wallet if you need one. It takes you 3 minutes, and buy something. I don't know, stake it, whatever you bought, doesn't really matter. But it's super easy for us. But try to get someone who has absolutely no idea, no experience. You just start talking about it, and you can see how their face just goes blank, right? Being like, what? Wallets, exchanges, transfers, blockchain. What the hell are you talking about, right? So
that brings me to thinking about what I was talking about earlier, with where Richard is banning or unfollowing people on Twitter for promoting other things and whatnot. And this brings me to that. I think that there is a portion of the new, I guess, the new influx of hexagons that are coming in, that don't understand the tenets, that don't understand the history as well as some of us that got in early did. And I think the reason that a lot of us that found it early, we understand exactly, like your book reads like, I mean, it's just, this is what we intuitively, us OGs that got into Hex, we understand. And that's why Hex was so attractive to us, because and you even put one of Richard's statements in the beginning here. It says, our made up imaginary internet money is better than the government's made up imaginary internet money. Both of them are only backed by the shared fiction of the humans believing that they have value. And that just resonates with all of us, because you understand the history of finance, you understand the history of money, what it means, and you understand the history of crypto, versus some people were kind of born into this crypto game, post Ethereum ERC20s, post the exchanges coming out and leverage trading and all this. Crypto turned into this big trading game, which is not what it was meant to be at all. And your book kind of takes us back and grounds us by going, okay, look, here's the history of money. Here's what a cryptocurrency is supposed to be. And boom, here they are. And you lay it out. I think that your book is a good read for not just people that don't understand crypto, period, but people that understand crypto the way it's been the last 10 years. Crypto lost its way the first couple of years Bitcoin came out. As soon as Ethereum launched and proved that second concept that we can program these things to do the right things, that all went out the window because they were programming them to fill their own pockets is what they were doing. And we went through a whole decade of having to deal with that. And would you like to address that by what your book, how your book may address that?
Sure. I'm very glad you brought it up because I totally agree. And for that reason, the title of the book is actually The Second Crypto Revolution, right? In my mind, what you just mentioned in the very beginning was that was the first that was the first revolution, let's call it like this, of our first financial revolution of our times. The invention of crypto, invention of Bitcoin, and the slow adoption in the beginning. That's something which has never been seen before, right? That's for the financial world, or for us as citizens of the world, of different countries. That's something which, it is a revolution, or it was a revolution. But then things happened exactly like you said, right? We kind of lost it with the launch of Ethereum, or the crypto community lost it in a way. We've been through all these ICOs and scams and rug pulls and you name it, which I think people started to pay attention to these things 2017, 2018. And actually, first they invested a lot of money, and then they lost a lot of money on gross majority of it. Not because of the bear market, but because a lot of these things never launched. A lot of these things just went down to zero or close to zero and never got up, right? And we've seen it happening. And I think this is roughly where that first crypto revolution or first revolution ends. And my theory, my thesis here was that if we want the cryptocurrency system or ecosystem to thrive, we needed a second revolution. So in that case, that would be a second crypto revolution. And then the questions I asked myself was like, okay, how this should look like if we have another crypto revolution, and who should lead that, right? Because every revolution needs a leader, right? It's just like, well, people will just not organize themselves in a way on the street if there is not, one charismatic person or more who will lead the crowd to achieve whatever they want to achieve, right? It's not like you cannot have 100,000 people on the streets not listening to anyone. Everyone is doing their own thing. That's not going to work. So, and then, like Richard Hart and Hex ecosystem, or his ecosystem kind of comes naturally here in a way, because from the very beginning, when he launched Hex, I was preparing to launch Hex. It was all the talk of the town in a way, right? Okay, so we have all these problems, and this is not real crypto because of admin keys, because it can be modified. And here we have a guy who comes to the table already wealthy, not really needing all this money, which he might potentially make, right? And he doesn't have any, how would you say, any motivation whatsoever to create one of these past things, right? Create an ICO, let's say, collect a lot of money and disappear, because, well, if you have all the money in the world, or at least as much as you could potentially imagine to spend, why would you do anything like that, right? Just to increase the balance on your bank account and, look over your shoulder for the rest of your life doesn't seem like, a very good deal to me. So we have him coming to the table, creating a crypto, which is going back to the roots, which is what actually crypto was invented for. No middlemen, no admin keys, code living on the blockchain, and so on. And for me, that's the beginning of the second revolution, pretty much. We have a guy who is not inspired by money, and he creates product which just works in a way, right? And which is designed to do things like crypto is supposed to design to do things, right? And so we have a leader, one. Two, we have a crypto which starts making sense, which gets, which gets traction, which gets a lot of attraction from various people. And then, a year later or a year and a half, we actually learn that on top of that, we will have a blockchain, which also is going to, let's call it compete or upgrade, whatever you want to name it, or scale, horizontally scale, how Richard likes to mention. So it's PulseChain, which is coming, and then we will have a decentralized exchange, right, which is going to be PulseX. And at the same time, it was actually after the book was published. Well, yeah, I think after the book was published, or towards the publishing, when all of these things with FTX happened, and part of the, if I can call it like this, the part of the positive outflow for FTX was people actually taking the money out of exchanges, so of centralized exchanges, and looking into decentralized exchanges more. So suddenly, our narrative in a way of Hex being that.
Let me stop you real quick on that one.
Okay.
Interrupt you real quick. So you've been watching the market as closely as I am, I'm sure. Now, before this FTX thing happened, we saw the market cap, crypto market cap, climbed to about $3 trillion, right? And so we knew there was a big influx of capital that came into crypto over this last bull run. Significant amount, more than as ever, like triple of what it was before the bull run started. And we saw it leave. We saw 2 trillion of it leave. It dropped us back down to about $850 billion market cap. And then FTX happened. And we haven't seen the needle move since then. So what does that tell you? That's something that's very suspicious to me. That's something that tells me that what happened here was known by the institutional investors and they pulled out, or a lot of it could have been, the exchanges themselves. And if that's the case, then it's even more nefarious than I'm thinking here. But what's your take on that? Because let's look at the facts here. The facts are is that this FTX thing happened and the market hasn't moved since then. We really haven't seen any, ramifications from that. We haven't seen an extra dip or anything. It's just been floundering where it's been since before the news came out. What's your take on that?
Well, I do not have like 100% conviction in what's actually happening, but I would agree with you that it certainly looks suspicious. It looks engineered, right? It doesn't look like a random thing, and even if you listened to SBF explaining himself back then, it just doesn't make any sense, right? For me, I never really followed the guy before, and I didn't really pay attention to anything he was saying. But then, if we would even assume that he built this thing himself, the whole FTX thing, that he was really in charge, he was the CEO or whatever, and then it all collapses in a way it did, and he just, and all he says is like, "Oh, I was incompetent." It's just like, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't think I would be able to build and run, a project as big as this. I don't think I'm capable of doing it.
No, these things are hard, man.
So,
these things are hard. It takes time, money, and know-how. And we built the Hex Investment Trust, and I'm telling you, our team with Wells and Kinetics, those guys worked tirelessly for days, weeks, months, hours and hours and hours of sleepless nights, dealing with lawyers, dealing with contracts, dealing with the SEC. The paperwork, the amount of information that we had to give up and show, and it was just insane how anybody who can be, running a business off of QuickBooks or doing stuff like, I don't even understand how this fool was doing this with all these people's money at risk. It's just insane. It's really showing how inept, and I was suspect of this long ago, that this space is full of people who do not understand how to run businesses. They are very smart when it comes to programming language and understanding technology, but they don't know fuck all when it comes to running businesses. These guys are absolutely horrible business developers, leaders, operators. It just shines through. Everything I've seen in the whole crypto space is just inept leadership, and we don't have any real leaders. And that's why, I've taken to Richard, because although he may have some quirky leadership skills himself, he is a competent leader, is what I see in Richard. He's a competent leader. So that's what makes it different to me. But man, this space is really in dire need of some professionalism for sure. Something else you wrote I wanted to touch on, and kind of another question that kind of goes back to the other subject that we were just talking about. You put, this is a force that is not going to go away. And this is, of course, it's a Richard quote too. This is from The Highest of Stakes. The cryptocurrencies are not going to go away. And at some point, the people that you met that you thought were crazy loon birds are going to be in the 1%. They're going to be the people that own half of everything. Now, I believe that the greatest transference of wealth is going to be through the cryptocurrency market. However, this is the one thing that I'm concerned about. When we talk about, cryptocurrency being a medium of exchange or a store of value or all these things, there are better alternatives like PayPal and Zelle and all of these things blow the doors off of crypto. I'm sorry. They work well, and mainstream has adopted them, and they're using them at a far faster pace, at a far higher rate than cryptocurrencies. Because, of course, we know cryptocurrency sucks as a medium of exchange, for not only for privacy reasons, but for, how slow it is and all these other things. It just hasn't taken on like other things have worked. And then you have the store of value. Well, how good is a store of value that drops 90%, at any given time, every few years, like clockwork? So those two arguments out of the way, do you think that, okay, now we look at Hex. So Hex is now launched. Now Hex replaces something that is very important to the world, that is being, there's nothing to replace it at this point, which is yield. And, something that can generate yield, that can mitigate inflation. And Hex does both of those things really well. Do you think that Hex as a product has the it factor, has the wow factor to take the lead in cryptocurrency as being the thing, the crypto that is actually going to give a use case to cryptocurrency finally, versus the others that have failed?
Yes, I definitely think that the answer here is yes. I was always entertained by arguments of some of the haters who were trying to point at Hex and but there is no use case. And for me, from the very beginning, it was like, it's probably one of the very few ones which actually has a use case. You look at anything else, again, without the big ones, which, okay, we know why Bitcoin was invented and what for, even though, it changes narratives and so on. We know what Ethereum is doing and so on. But you look at all the others, different blockchains, different projects on Ethereum and so on and so forth. It's like, show me the use case in most of them. There is some dreams, there is still sort of like post-ICO things, maybe this we will do in the future, or this will be a future of payment. I'm like, yeah, but it's, you use a lot of will here, which means you actually don't have a use case. You will be using that coin to, I don't know, either get rich, or you will be trading it for another 7 years, and still nothing is actually delivered, right? And Hex delivered from day one what it promised to deliver, right? It was clearly described what it does. It's doing what it's doing, and it's just there, right? So the use case was there. I think that the more popular it gets, the bigger the chances are to lead sort of this crypto adoption, if I could call it like this. Of course, it's an issue with what you said, but it's it's a typical issue for crypto, of this volatility and just things going up and down all the time. So perhaps in the end, it won't be such a great store of value for someone who just wants to, I will save some money for 2 years, because you don't actually know what's going to happen in 2 years, right? So it's hard, you can put $1,000 today, and it might be worth 20,000 in 2 years, but it might be worth $100. So actually, you don't know how markets are going to react. So as such, I'm not sure if it's such a great replacement for savings accounts. But, you know, saying that, it's like, what can you do with the savings accounts these days? I mean, like, okay, now maybe with interest rates rising, you could get a little bit higher APY on your bank accounts, but they're still significantly lower than the inflation. So, I mean, like, you know, it looks like the system tries to dupe you into, like, you're saving money. You're actually not saving money. You're losing money every year. You're just locking it up so you can't access it, you know. So it used to be more before the interest rates were higher. Now it's a little bit less in terms of how you gain, in terms of how you lose. But yeah, you're not saving anything, you know, like keep that, you know, $10,000 for 10 years on your, you know, certificate of deposit, and, you know, inflation would probably eat it all away, or you know, majority. For sure, you'll not have any gains, right? So that's not working for sure. And, you know, the second thing, like if we try to, I don't know, fast forward maybe 5-10 years into the future, right? You know, I might be completely wrong here, but let's say crypto just keeps getting more and more popular. Let's say Hex has, you know, millions of users, you know, maybe that would actually lead to some stabilization of prices as well, right? People were talking about it that, well, you know, the opportunities for investments are right now because only a few % of global population is using crypto. But if it goes up in numbers to, I don't know how much, because I didn't do the math on that, let's say 20, 25, 30% in the next 10 years, and, you know, you have not over 100,000 stakers, but over 10 million or whatever, you know, maybe we will see Hex, let's say, stabilizing, you know, around $1 or $10 or whatever. And then 10 years after invention or 15 years after invention, it actually becomes what it was initially designed to be, right? You put your $10,000 or whatever you have, and then you get your 38% APY if it's for 7 years average staking, right? And you get great interest or appreciation. And the price is not volatile that much. I mean, I'm not saying it will be not volatile at all, but, you know, like, let's say we work with $1, right? You know, maybe it goes to 80 cents, then it goes to $1.20, and so on. And maybe it's a bracket like that, simply because there is so much adoption, there is so many users that, you know, there is just no economic power as well to suddenly, you know, drop it 90% again, or make it rise 10,000 times again, right? So maybe that's a potential scenario that we will all be surprised that actually, you know, maybe it's just ahead of its time, way ahead of its time. So now it's prone to react to all the market forces, but maybe it won't be, you know, in the next 15 years or 10 or whatever. Yeah,
virality is going to change everything in the crypto space, because we're not seeing like this 2 trillion that entered and exited the market. That's obviously ebb and flow capital. That capital wasn't the hardcore, the 850 billion that's here. Those are the hodlers. Those are the true believers. Those are the people that are in and have bags and are holding and believe in this space. The other 2 trillion, which is, you know, 3 times the amount of, you know, what's here now is just moving in and out. So we have this volatility because of that, because of the big money making crypto its plaything. But I think when virality happens, when enough people get educated, like what your book is trying to educate people, this is what we as Hexicans have been trying to do. What your book outlines is what we've been trying to do. It's like, look at the history of money. And this is when I go on stage and I speak, this is exactly where I go. I start out with the monetary system, and then I go into, you know, the banking system and what the banking system has done historically and where it's at today with the trillions of dollars of bailouts that they've had to have from mismanaging the money, and how money is actually transmitted today. You know, we don't see our dollars anymore. We can't get all of our dollars out of the bank because of fractional reserve banking, because of all these things. So people need to be, a lot of people don't even understand that part of it. You know, you talk to the average person on the street, your average friend who is intelligent people. Like, you can go to intelligent, educated people and start talking to them about fractional reserve banking, and they look at you like you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? They take my money and they lend it out, and they make interest off of it, and they pay me a small piece of. No, that is not how it works. You know, it's there's a different way that banking is done, and inflation is dumped on our heads. And you know, those banks take that free money that the government has given to them, and not only do they borrow that from the government, but they borrow more on top of what they borrowed, because now what they borrow is now in their liabilities tank, and they can do that like 10 times. And our money just gets watered down. And then all of the processing in and of itself is just, it's just a horrible way of doing it. All the security that it takes, everything that they have to do on their end in order to make a transaction happen. You know, we can do it much better on the internet through cryptocurrencies than what the banks are doing. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that there aren't products out there that are kicking crypto's ass, because I'm telling you, Zelle blows crypto's doors off. I mean, that thing works, and it works well, and it's simple. It's like, give me your phone number, I'll Zelle you some money. Bam, you know, and it's done. Mm-hmm. It's that easy. Crypto's not that easy. Like, well, send me some crypto. Well, what do I got to do? Well, first you got to go get yourself a wallet set up. Call me back in 2 weeks, you know, and that's how it works, right? It's like, I need you to go to Coinbase and set up an account. Call me in 2 weeks once you've got that all figured out, you know, and it's just a horrible way of operating. But again, you know, this is the history and the understanding that people need to have about finances, banks, and then what crypto can do to fix those. And I think, and this is one of the things I wanted to get in a conversation with you about, is, in my opinion, I think that Hex's magic to the world, on top of trustless yield and being the cryptocurrency that is going to make cryptocurrency, put it on the map, I think, is the inflation model. I think that Hex's inflation model is really its gift to the world. And as soon as institutional money, insurance companies, banks, as soon as they start realizing that the inflation model of Hex blows everything out of the water, I think that's when it's going to start taking adoption. What's your opinion on Hex's inflation model?
Well, that might be very much the case, what you just mentioned. I also think it's great. It's working perfectly. It has been working perfectly for the last 3 years. We saw it early. Some people I think we are still all early, right? So for the first 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, the places where we are, if you look into Hex, if you start investing in Hex, it just looks, you know, it's if you start understanding what you're dealing with, that's great. And institutions, well, I mean, they will see the same thing as we are seeing, and it all comes with the popularity of I think of Hex and of a proper crypto, right? In a way, so I would say just a matter of time. So the really, let's call it a really big adoption, a really big push for Hex might actually happen. Ironically, maybe when some regulations come into place, right? Because, well, we know what we are, we know what Hex is, we know we are not threatened by all the potential SEC blowbacks and so on because of the way Hex was designed. If any regulations actually will come in the end, because we are being threatened with regulations for years now, and they don't seem to really catch up with what the markets are doing, then, you know, I try to not to go too much to extremes where whether I'm scared of regulations or whether I support them, because I think if they come, they will not be that extreme in the end, right? It's not going to be, you know, let's just ban everything because it's just bad and it threatens us, and you know, we will just make it illegal, let's say in the US, and just don't use crypto, you go to jail. I don't believe in that scenario, really. No. I also don't believe that it's going to be so light that it doesn't matter. If it's going to be so light that it doesn't matter, then they will just not make it because it's a waste of time, right? It will be somewhere in the middle. So I think it might make life more difficult for perhaps some coin creators, for some blockchains, for some projects. it will not make it difficult for the good ones, which are actually operating within the legal scope. And in that case, that opens doors to the institutions, right? That's what some people are talking about as well. That like, well, you have a lot of money on the sidelines. You have all these, pension funds, insurance companies, and every other financial company in the world. And in the US and perhaps, or for sure, in many other countries, they might actually more or less understand crypto in general. Maybe they even understand it very well. But legally, they can't make a move because they will get themselves into troubles, right? If it's not clear, if the legal status is not clarified, then they can't really go in. But once the regulations are in, once they can come in, the research might have been done already, or they are doing it at the moment. So if they discover hacks, if they discover the hex inflation model, if they see that it actually works, and these guys are smart in general. I mean, if you run a big financial company, generally the people there are not dumb, right? So, and they have teams which probably are doing just that. Maybe they have already crypto dedicated people, maybe they have crypto teams, who knows, looking into that, and if you give a really smart guy who is, I don't know, maybe a math wizard or whatever, explaining things like explaining crypto and explaining hacks, it's not a rocket science for them. They see all this, like we used to have that document, I think it's still out there, which was considered a hex white paper, even though like there was no white paper, but it was explaining hex in simple terms, in layman terms, right?
Yeah,
and
the layman's guide,
yeah, there were some mathematical equations there. There were some mathematical equations in, I think, in the audits as well. Like, for the average user, maybe this is the part they actually skip because it's like, okay, whoa, this is getting too complicated. I don't understand it. But if you show it to someone whose job is pretty much that in the TradFi, in the traditional finance, they just look at this and they understand it right away, right? And then they will just read it and be like, hey, this things actually work. And then you might do a more fundamental research, being, okay, look, this thing was working fine for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever. It's growing, the price is growing, the community is growing, everything gets up, both the math, the inflation, and the community, and the history of it. And then we might see something we've never imagined before. So I think we're on the right path here. Yeah,
the best set of papers or periodicals or whatever wrote in Hex's behalf, I think, is the legal opinion, which isn't publicly given out. Only a few people have it. We were given, it was given to us because we set up the Hex Investment Trust. But one of the arguments in that legal document, which was wrote by a couple of different lawyers, was talking about the Hinman standard. And this is one of the things that gives me hope. And I haven't read the complete article yet. When we're talking about regulation, the SEC's got its back up against the wall right now. Judges have been ruling against the SEC in the Ripple case. And they had begged to have the Hinman standard pulled from record so that they couldn't use it as precedent in this case. And from what I understand, the judge just overruled the SEC's attempt to withhold the documents relating to the former division director, William Hinman. That's big news. And that just came out today. That's today, December 26th, that's come out. So this is big news for us, guys. This is huge for the crypto space. That the Hinman standard is actually going to be staying in a legal case where the SEC has their backs up against the wall right now, as far as trying to regulate and trying to put cryptos in this box that they are securities and not commodities, and that they're only going to give a handful of them that designation. This Hinman standard is big for us. This is really big for Hex. I don't know if you knew that. I just saw this article. I was getting ready to read it right before we started the show. But I just got through enough of it to know that, yes, the SEC just lost that. A judge just ruled against them.
Very good. Very good. I haven't seen it yet. No, I'm not that up to date with the US regulations and US market as well, because obviously I'm not American and I don't live there. So, I try to keep myself as much updated as I can, as I need to be to pretty much be in Hex and in crypto. But this is your area of expertise here. I definitely take a look after the stream with you what happened. But sounds like good news, right? So I'm all up for it.
So I was just reading the chat real quick. Yes, it's Hinman, and it's actually a favorable. It's a favorable standard that they've wrote. So whether you trust him or whatever, there was precedent set with what the man wrote when it came to Ethereum, and that's why Ethereum was given its pass. So just to let you know, go back in there and read the Hinman standard and what it means. But it means something very important to this case, and it could mean importance going forward. Look, regulation is coming, and we want it to be as favorable or as light as possible so that we can continue to function and operate. We don't want to be regulated regulated out of existence or regulated to where it cripples, what crypto is supposed to be. So, and we know what the Howey test is. Yes, the Howey test is one of a few of the things that they're actually looking at, but the Hinman standard is what we're really looking at. We know Hex passes the 4 legs of the Howey test. That's old news for us. But the 4 standards are met. And if you go back and look at the you don't have the legal opinion, but the legal opinion clearly states how Hex passes the Howey test, and some of the others. There are other indicators also, not just the Hinman standard and the Howey test. There are 3 other indicators in there also that they're working with. So Hex is crossing off all the boxes, and with the Hinman standard in place, it even makes a stronger argument for Hex. So that's what we're trying to say here. You mean does not pass? Yeah, it doesn't meet the Howey test standards to be in a security. Exactly. Like I said, that's been tossed around for a long time, the Howey test. I understand what you're saying, but anyway, so back to the book. When you completed it, how did you end the book?
How did I end the book? It would be a spoiler in a way, no? I mean, I'd say it's let's whoever is interested read it and take a look like what it is. But I can mention it's all optimistic and positive, right? Like I'm a huge believer in this ecosystem. I'm a huge believer in what Richard Hadd is doing. Like you mentioned before, man has a personality for sure, and you might like some things, you might not like some others, but he's a very competent leader, and he's got us a great product, and he got us where we are right now, right? And so obviously the whole book is if you consider that it's mostly aimed at no coiners or people who are beginning in crypto, or people who perhaps lost a lot of money in various scams and ICOs and rug pulls and so on, then I would say, look, we needed a book, or we need a material to give people some clear path, I would say, right? So the clear path here is, okay, understand a little bit of history of finance, understand a little bit of crypto. Here you have 1 product which already works perfectly, and 2 on the way, which are going to be a bit different. Well, actually a lot of different, but from the same guy, from the same team, let's call it like this. Then you have a little bit about, okay, if you already decided to invest and work with it, then security is important. So I mentioned security. Well, there's a whole chapter about security, right? So it's all about private keys, not your coins, not your crypto. Also security in the physical world. So if you actually make it in crypto and I don't know, you invested whatever $10,000 and now you have 10 million. The threats are not only coming from hackers, they're also coming from outside, and that happens all over the world. Sometimes you see that in the news that something happens. So I mentioned that as well, that you have to we have to be careful on every front once it actually happens. And even if you didn't make it that big like many others, I mean, if you create a persona, if you create an image that you did, you still can be a target of a physical violence, because people actually don't know how much you have. But if you start acting like, you are a, crypto multi-millionaire, then don't be surprised, even if you're not. Like, someone snatch you up on the street and then, give me your keys or have your wife killed or whatever, right? So that's something which I take very seriously, and I think you should too, and that's why the chapter is there. There are obviously some predictions, so I try to do a little bit of research of what mostly people are saying and what I'm thinking about where Hex is going long term in terms of prices, or at least in terms of the next bull market, where potentially PulseChain is going once launched, where PulseX is going. So yeah, I can mention that the ending is positive, of course, because I believe in it. If I didn't believe in it, writing of the whole book wouldn't make any sense, because I mean, why would you write something like that and then end? You know what? By the way, everyone who got in years ago is great, but now everything's going to zero, right? Like, come on, why would you spend a year writing a book if you didn't believe that it actually helps some people, right? So it's like it's not a story, right?
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit to PulseChain. What's your take on PulseChain?
What's my take on PulseChain? Like, depends what angle we take, right? I think it's great that it's going to be one of the most revolutionary products or projects on the blockchain. I'm not a programmer. I'm not able to comment on exactly like what happens when I'm one of these guys who probably, well, for sure didn't understand one of the latest Richard's updates, which is a gibberish to me. I don't really understand that, but doesn't matter. I think I don't have to. I'm not a programmer. I don't have to be. So in general, I think it's going to be great. I think all this idea of horizontally scaling what we already have in a way on Ethereum is great. I think it's amazing that a product like Hex will eventually sit on its own blockchain, because, well, again, I'm not a technical expert on stuff, but if I think about what Richard also calls, let's say, imaginary horribles, I would say, like, having a great performing product for many, many years, which is still reliant on someone else's blockchain, is probably not ideal, right? Can something happen? Can it be damaged, switched off, or switched off not, right? But, can something happen potentially in the far distant future? Yeah, I could see. I don't know. I don't know what exactly, but that potentially could happen. So I think this is our insurance policy in a way. Launching of PulseChain and copying Hex there, and then we will see how the performances of Hex on both chains. Maybe nothing will ever happen, but if it does, we have an alternative, right? Hex is not going to die. It just lives on another blockchain and very likely doing very well. So yeah, like if you created something which works, but you're still relying on other people or another product, if that product goes down for whatever reason, then you go down too, right? So it's like, it doesn't have to be anything even specific against Hex, but there were some comments before transition of Ethereum to proof of stake, right? Like, everyone was actually watching, is it going to go well, right? And I don't know what potential negative consequences could be, what could have gone wrong, but didn't. But imagine something would go wrong back then, or will go wrong with another update, right? So it doesn't have to be anything Hex specific. But if something happens to Ethereum network for whatever reason, then we are somewhere else. We are on our own, right? And then we will be able to do things the way we do it, and we're not concerned that the major platform on which we operate is actually in someone else's hands.
Yeah, in my opinion, PulseChain is going to give Hex the tracks to run on. I think it's going to bring new innovative cryptos to the space because of what Hedron has done. I think that the proof of concept that Hedron proofed that the T-share can create value in a crypto ecosystem by wrapping it, putting an NFT around it, utilizing its power, creating like a kind of crypto battery. I think that that it gives a birthing place or a petri dish or fertile ground for those types of projects to emerge. Now that the concept has been proved. Also, I think that PulseChain may be the blockchain of Web3. I think that Web3 may be able to exist on it in a stronger capacity than it has. So that's my take on PulseChain. If it launches, if it launches, and if it launches and does what it says it's going to do, I think that it could possibly do those three things: give Hex better tracks to run on, make an ecosystem built around the T-share possible, viable, and strong. And I think it can also help, Web3 and the metaverse, so to speak, come into existence, because it needs a blockchain and the metaverse doesn't have one that functions properly. And I think PulseChain may be that. Now, the other thing is PulseX, which, in my opinion, I think PulseX is the next shiny object in crypto. I think that once PulseX comes out and it's the most liquid DEX on PulseChain, that it's going to have people running all over it. I think that that's going to be the excitement of the next bull run, is going to be the utilization of PulseX. What's your take on that?
I absolutely agree. I mean, we obviously, when PulseChain was announced first, and the first sacrifice was announced, and we knew what's coming, and some, let's call it, the first news were flowing down slowly about what it's going to be. I guess we, again, if you're not technical, maybe you didn't realize that we actually needed a thing like PulseX, right? Obviously, if you have your own blockchain, then you need your own DEX in a way, right? And
it definitely solves all the problems that we just seen crypto have with, these. Yeah,
definitely, yes. And also, I think I agree with you that that's going to be the next shiny object, pretty much also because there was so many other DEXs which launched on other blockchains, or even on other blockchains, which did very well, and a lot of people, traders, crypto enthusiasts, speculators, you name it, they are constantly hunting for the new gems, pretty much, and like, okay, I like PulseX because it's going to be on PulseChain, and because it's in our ecosystem, and because Richard Hart is creating it. But there are other people who maybe don't care, but they still will see like, oh, look, there's, I don't know, 5, 7, 10 other projects. All of them, or most of them, did very well, some better than the others. So I'm jumping into this one just because it's new and shiny, like you said, right? And for us, the long-term believers, that's just good, right? I mean, there's just more money flowing, and as we know, we are all going to hold some PulseX tokens for starts, and it's going to be deflationary and so on. So you could, I see a lot of these discussions on the internet as well, being like, okay, so what's the best play for hexicans right now? Like, should you swap something? Should you ratio, PulseChain, PulseX, so on? You know what? I'm just going to sit on my hands doing absolutely nothing and watching the show, because for two reasons, right? One, I actually don't know what's going to happen. And I think that would be a pure guess. And anyone claiming right now, oh, your best strategy would be to sell half of it and keep half of that and then change it again after 2 weeks. Man,
I don't want to tell anybody to do anything like that,
Yeah. Maybe if you have, I don't know, a lot of PulseChain, but no PulseX, or the other way around, maybe you should do something. But when and at what ratio, I'm not qualified to tell. And I don't think anyone is, because what we are going to see in the first few months after launch is just going to be total madness, in my opinion. And you could keep guessing. You might be lucky, you might get it right, but the chances are you also get it wrong, and you won't get it. So I'm excited for PulseX as well. I think it's a optimal and very necessary tool for PulseChain. Without it, after we actually realize PulseX is going to be a thing, I think without it now it will be hard to imagine PulseChain. I mean, imagine for some reason we get information, what, scrap PulseX, we'll just copy Uniswap, and Uniswap is just going to be there, right? It's just like, really? It just doesn't sit well, right? So it's not going to work this way. Now we are all, I think, accustomed to the thought that we are going to have our own blockchain, we are going to have our own DEX, and if the and later, I guess, we'll have other things, including the wallet, right? I mean, Richard mentioned the wallet. Obviously, we don't know anything yet, and it's too early, and blah, blah, blah. But it's not the end. Yeah? These are the first 2 products.
Yeah, there's more coming. There's more coming. I mean, we've got a good probably 5 years of new products launching and things happening. And I mean, we've only launched Hex, and it's been a little over 3 years. Well, maybe closer to 5 with the weight, the build up from Fluid Dynamics token to Hex to all that, and watching Richard build. So I think we got another 5 years of good things happening. Who knows? Who knows how much could actually come out with the way things are moving now? But for fun, let's do it. Let's do a couple of quick, just for fun stuff. Do you think? So let's talk regulation real quick. Just a quick answer. Do you think regulation over this next cycle before the bull run comes favorable or unfavorable to DeFi?
I'd say favorable for the right products.
I say so too, favorable. So I'll give it the same answer. Okay. And we're not going to talk, we won't talk price. Let's talk where do we see Hex at the top of the bull run? How can we say this without throwing, well, for fun, let's throw out a price. What do you think at the top of the next bull run? What's your quick prediction?
I'm on a more conservative side, and I would say $2-3.
Oh,
and that's conservative for me. Yeah,
and I'm very conservative. And I was saying about $1.80 to $2. That's my
even more than me, yeah.
top.
Okay.
So and I was the guy that was saying that we were going to be under a penny. Up until now, I was thinking under a penny maybe at the first.
Are you still thinking that?
No. So I have trouble with my conservative, but I always keep my conservative predictions out there. Okay, so now let's talk X's in gains on PulseChain. What do you think? How many X gains in this first bull run do you think that PulseChain will see if it launches?
If we take into consideration the whole bull run, so at the top, I would say 500, around 500x.
500x.
Yeah, at the top of the bull run, not like right off the gate in the first 2 weeks, right? So
a 500x on PulseChain. Okay, I was a lot more conservative. I was thinking somewhere around 200 to 250. That was my kind of prediction. All right, so now PulseX. What do you think X gains on PulseX in the first top of the bull run?
I would say 700, 800, more than PulseChain.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking around 500 is my expectations, 300 to 500. And wow, that's monster gains. So anyway, I just wanted to do that for fun, just to
Sure. Yeah.
Just bear market banter, because everybody's everybody's hating it and hurting right now, and we got to have something to look forward to. But hey, tell everybody where they can see you, where they can get your book and all that stuff. We've posted it up here a couple of times, but let's throw the book back up there so people could see it, and then we'll get your links.
Sure. So guys, the best way is just go to the website, secondcryptorevolution.com. You have my email there. You have links to social media on the bottom part of the page, so you can find me on whatever platform you are actually most active on, I'd say. Obviously, Twitter is a big thing, so my Twitter is markwild_369. For obvious reasons, so you could just connect on Twitter right away. If you prefer, Instagram and others, then let's just take a look on the website. You have all kinds of things over there. By all means, get in touch. Let's be in touch. If you have any questions you'd like to generally, let's follow each other and let's support each other. And be optimistic. That will be my message. I think we've all seen this before. We've seen the bear markets. I'm not concerned at the slightest, and just wait for it, and we will all be excited one more time. And that's one of the reasons I wrote that book and have it done, published in the middle of the bear market without dropping the project whatsoever, right?
Better times are coming, guys. This too shall pass. And there is nothing new under the sun. We will see all-time highs again. Crypto ain't going anywhere. And you can pick up his book and read all about that and why. And if you don't understand macroeconomics, finance, the banking system, I know a lot of people in crypto do. Most people, in fact, do. But those of you who are new, those of you who don't understand in depth what's going on, this book is a great read. And he gets you can go down the rabbit hole. He lays it out very, very nice, very, very easy and comprehensive to read and understand. But there is a rabbit hole that you can go on each one of his chapters and go and just study your little heart out and understand what's going on out there in the big bad world. But anyway, appreciate you coming on, Mark. Hang out in the green room for a minute. Guys, we'll see you all on Wednesday with me and Famous, but appreciate you. Thanks for coming. See you then. Take care, Mark. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.